Good thing we're bombing the Khorasan Group.
I don't know. The way you pronounce it almost makes it sound like a tailor or something.
Yeah,
The Khorasan Group.
I'm not convinced it is not totally made up.
The Khorasan Group.
So Glenn Greenwald has a good piece, sort of, and Murtaza Hussain have a good piece up in The Intercept, basically outlining how the U.S. government seems to have walked back, how threatening Khorasan is, whether or not they're maybe even real, and the absolute failure. Now, look, here's the reality. We have very limited resources here at the Majority Report, okay? We don't have stringers in Washington, D.C. We don't have stringers in California. We don't have stringers in Syria or in Iraq or in Turkey, or really, we don't have stringers standing more than 8 feet away from me. And I'm not even sure, frankly, that we could call them stringers. We don't talk to government officials. The only people we talk to are the people that we interview on this program. And, sometimes a little birdie will whisper in my ear. But the failure of the corporate media to investigate these claims by the U.S. government, or to report them skeptically if there is no substantiating material to the claims of the U.S. government, is unbelievable. Because one would have thought that 14 years ago or 11 years ago, the media would have learned its lesson. We can't always, sometimes the government sort of exaggerates. So let's walk through this, okay? September 13th, an article by the Associated Press cited unnamed U.S. officials to warn of the Khorasan Group. They wrote, at the center is a cell known as the Khorasan Group, a cadre of veteran al-Qaeda fighters from Afghanistan and Pakistan who traveled to Syria to link up with the al-Qaeda affiliate there, the Nusra Front. On the morning of September 18th, CBS News broadcasts a segment. The narration went like this. It's an al-Qaeda cell you've probably never heard of. Nearly everything about them is classified. Bob Orr in Washington with new information on a group some consider more dangerous than ISIS. And then Bob Orr announces that he has sources warning of, quote, a more immediate threat to the U.S. homeland. More ISIS than ISIS. I added that part. And he said that officials have ordered enhanced screening for hidden explosives at all airports. Hardened terrorists are building a hard-to-detect bombs. His sources confirm the al-Qaeda cell goes by the name Khorasan. And they're, quote, developing fresh plots to attack U.S. aviation. Then, on that same day, James Clapper, quote, in terms of a threat to the homeland, Khorasan may pose as much of a danger as the Islamic State, which is actually technically a walk back because they were supposed to be more dangerous than ISIS. And of course, the president later tells us that ISIS is not a direct threat anyways. But even so, on September 20th, New York Times, U.S. suspects more direct threats beyond ISIS. American officials said that the group called Khorasan had emerged in the past year as a cell in Syria that may be the most intent on hitting the United States or its installations overseas with a terror attack. The group is led by Muhsin al-Faldi, a senior al-Qaeda operative who was so close to bin Laden that he was among a small group of people who knew about the September 11th attacks. Apparently, this guy is now, or was in his early 30s. So he was in his early 20s when he was working with Osama bin Laden. So, guys, there's hope for you. I think they wanted to kill this guy in Syria, and this was basically the reason for the Khorasan Group. Eli Lake warned on September 23rd. This is the day after the first bombs in Syria. American analysts had pieced together detailed information on a pending attack from an outfit that informally called itself the Khorasan Group, to use hard-to-detect explosives on American and European airliners. The planning from the Khorasan Group suggests at least an aspiration to launch more coordinated and larger attacks on the West in the style of the 9/11 attacks from 2001. Washington Post on that day. The United States also pounded a little-known but well-resourced al-Qaeda cell that some American officials fear could pose a direct threat to the United States. CNN on that day. The group was actively plotting against a U.S. homeland target and Western targets, a senior U.S. official told CNN on Tuesday. The group posed an imminent threat. The plots were believed to be in advanced stage, according to a second U.S. official. An advanced stage. Eric Holder claimed, "We hit them last night out of concern they were getting close to an execution date of some of the plans that we have seen." The Pentagon the next day claimed the U.S. airstrike killed the Khorasan leader. Foreign Policy said, but then all of a sudden it starts to fall apart, as the foreign policy analyst Shane Harris started to question whether the threat was actually real. Matthew Olson, director of the National Counterterrorism Center, said at Brookings, well, if they launched the plot, it would be very limited in scope. It would be nothing like the 9/11 scale attack. And then a senior U.S. counterterrorism told Foreign Policy, Khorasan has the desire to attack, though we're not sure their capabilities match their desire. In other words, I'd like to play the violin. I don't know how to play the violin. So really what I'd like to do is I'd like to learn to play the violin. I'm like 2 or 3 steps away from playing the violin. You know, between having the skill to play the violin and the desire to get the skill to play the violin. And then this past last week, one senior American official on Wednesday described the Khorasan plotting as aspirational. So in other words, it's not they have a plan. It's not they have a plan and they're moving into the execution phase. It's not they have put all the pieces together to begin to implement the plan. It is they sort of want to think about maybe making a plan. So in other words, they exist and they really would like, you know, if it was possible, to maybe do some stuff. Then the AP comes out with, last week, U.S. officials offer more nuanced take on the Khorasan threat. Several U.S. officials told reporters this week that the group was in the final stages of planning an attack on the West, leaving the impression that such an attack was about to happen. But now, senior U.S. officials offered a more nuanced picture of the threat they believe posed by an al-Qaeda cell in Syria targeted military strikes this week. James Comey, the FBI director, and Rear Admiral John Kirby, the Pentagon spokesman, each acknowledged that the U.S. did not have precise intelligence about where or when the cell known as the Khorasan Group would attempt to strike a Western target. Kirby said, I don't know that we can pin that down to a day or a week or a month or 6 months. We can have this debate about whether it was valid to hit them or not, or whether it was too soon or too late. We hit them. And I don't think we need to throw up a dossier here to prove that these are bad dudes.
Oh, shit. Wow. That's incredible.
There you have it, folks. The bad dudes doctrine.
Oh, man.
Now we're back to the opaque targeted assassination, right? Except for this time we didn't, because there was an imminent threat, i.e., bad dudes were alive. And Comey said, I don't exactly know what that word means, imminent. Although somebody, and I'm adding this, accidentally put it into that Office of Legal Counsel memo that said when there's an imminent threat, that's when you can actually assassinate them and bomb. So there you have it. 2 weeks ago, Khorasan. Next week, I don't know. We got to come up with. That's right. What's that Italian wine that's a little fizzy?
Prosecco?
Yeah. Next week it's Prosecco. The Prosecco Group.
Prosecco. When you say, now I'm realizing when you say Khorasan, you sound like Rafael Cruz.
That's right.
That's what's going on.
That's what I'm doing.
That's what it sounds. It sounds like the Spanish word for heart.
I was going to say, like, it's just, it doesn't, it sounds, but it has that, the Khorasan, it just sort of sounds like the jackal. There's like that quality of like.
It does. There's a jackal quality to it. And I could just tell you.
We've got to attack the Tecate group. And then Dos Equis.
Really getting off brand if they use those names.
That's right. Well, then they're gonna have a problem. Then they're gonna have a problem with like trademark, and you don't want to get involved in that.